Okay, y'all, last night there was some little bit of news in that there's some official developer notes about the daily event changes and upcoming economy updates. This is quite an interesting read, so I do recommend everyone who had commented and had opinions on daily events to read this because it gives you a perspective on the developer and their ideas on what daily events are supposed to be and future changes that you can expect. So we're just gonna go through it. I have indeed read through this last night, and I just want to read through it again and post this video so that everyone are aware of it, or at least those who watch my channel are aware of this. Okay, so this is from Mighty Zug, the co-founder of Hidden Variable, or just the founder, I don't know, but he's basically the boss. Hey everyone, after seeing some of the feedback regarding our recent update to daily events in 5.1, we want to provide more context regarding our goals for this adjustment and to let you know why we made these changes and what further updates we have in store for the feature. Why we changed daily events? So prior to 5.1, daily events existed as a reliable means for players to invest time and yellow energy to get an array of resources including skill points, Cant Be Coins, and moves. Effectively completing daily events required figuring out proper counters to challenging modifiers and match constraints, all of which are interesting puzzle boxes for progressive players through mid-game. Once you got to the point where you could clear these events comfortably, however, they become a tedious slog. While you could use tools like Fight Assist to lessen the tedium somewhat, the previous system actively encouraged players to spend a significant amount of time, perhaps over an hour, if you're doing all difficulties, engaging in content that for those players was far from compelling. This was the biggest complaint about daily events, is that the grind was too much and there needs to be a system to cut this significantly. As a result, many of our mid-late game players fell into one of two camps. Due to the rewards, they dutifully played dailies every day, but saw it as a boring, tedious filler, and due to the chore-like nature of dailies, they didn't even bother to engage with them at all. I'm somewhat in the middle. I mostly do the Masters level dailies, but if I'm bored, I don't let it take control over me and I just don't engage with them. As you might expect, both of these results are not ideal. We reflected on all this in context of one of the main goals regarding our recent quality life updates, maximizing the amount of fun players are having per SGM minute played. If we know a certain mode or feature is dragging down the day-to-day experience, we want to nip that in the bud as best as possible. We would rather players spend less time playing SGM every day if that means that their time spent in-game is more rewarding. Preparing for the next 5 years of Skullgirls Mobile. As SGM celebrates its 5-year anniversary, we find ourselves a bit out of a crossroads. Some F2P games stagnate and coast indefinitely, slowly becoming further and further out of touch with other games on the market. Other F2P games take steps to try to improve their existing systems and economy as notable pain points arise and player expectations change, even if it comes at the risk of upsetting the uneasy balance they have struck prior. Even though we're 5 years in, SGM still has tremendous room for growth, but we recognize that anytime we attempt to make a paradigm shift, those pivots will also come with a bit of friction. Pivots? Pivots? I don't know how to pronounce that. In the case of daily events, we've made some conscious choices as it relates to the role we want daily events to play in each player's journey and in their day-to-day sessions. In brief, our primary goal with daily events, refactored in 5.1, was to enable players to engage with daily events in an inviting fashion that spares them the slog in order to make room for players to spend time with more engaging content, which is prize fights, rift battle, future modes, etc. And I really want to highlight future modes because remember, this is still a quality of life update year and there has not been any new content in that space, but we will see this hopefully very soon. For players who are slugging through dailies every day, we want to allow you to earn rewards much more quickly so you can focus on other things. For players who are avoiding dailies, we want them to become a snappy, rewarding aspect of your daily SGM routine. Now, this is probably the biggest paragraph here. Cant Be Coin sources, as many of you have noted, one of the downsides of this particular approach is that for players who are going above and beyond to maximally exhaust daily events prior to 5.1, you could earn more Cant Be Coins per week than you can after 5.1, now that daily events are limited by tickets. We recognize that Cant Be Coins are a resource that is in high demand, oh yeah, and anything that impacts the rate at which players can earn those resources for free will create a bit of friction. That said, and this is probably the most important sentence in this whole post, character daily events were not originally intended to serve as a primary source for Cant Be Coins, and despite the willingness for players to descend in the Cant Be Coin mines to progress their collection. That is not an experience that we want to enable or encourage. This is something I kind of touched on in my previous video when I was talking about this, where I mentioned that daily events were supposed to be like a progressive feature, and that's why the developers are unwilling for you to like go back to all the previous difficulties. Because it was not meant to be a mine for Cant Be Coins, it just became that way as more characters are introduced and the economy didn't really change. That said, we realize this creates a Cant Be Coin void that otherwise needs to be filled. As such, we have some solutions for that short term and long term that we hope will ensure Cant Be Coins can be reliably acquired at a healthy, reasonable rate without creating undue, unpleasant demands on players. So I hope players get this and understand this perspective. This is for the best. Daily events were not meant to be a source for resources, and it just became that way over time because players, we find the best way to like play games usually, and even though that's not what the developers had in mind, so they limited it, and I think it's the best solution because it's definitely for the betterment of the game in the long run, and I'm sure there's gonna be future content that is able to fill this Cant Be Coin void that is hopefully more fun to play with as well. Upcoming adjustments. So in light of all that, what should folks expect in the short term and long term? Short term, we're going to be making 2 adjustments. Starting Thursday, which is today, as you see from my date here, players will get 4 daily event tickets per day, up from 3 per day. This solves some of the minor issues I had with daily events in that Cursed Experiments and Holodeck Hazard cost a ticket, but now that they've increased it from 2 to 3 and then 4, we no longer have to make that trade-off. So this was a very good change. It's a really quick, simple solution. I did mention my own solution where the first run was supposed to be free and stuff like that, but I think this is kind of more easier and more simple to implement, and mine was slightly a bit more convoluted, so I understand why they made this change. Starting now, Midweek PDG prize fight events will reliably occur every Wednesday or Thursday as opposed to every other week. So this is also a nice change. Medici prize fight events now occurs twice a week, and you can grind for coins through this prize fight instead. I do think that the rewards for this Medici prize fight needs to be increased, or at least like increase the threshold from top 100 to top 1% or something. Only 100 players being able to get like the final reward is pretty bad. Both of these adjustments significantly increase the amount of resources, including Cant Be Coins, that players are able to glean from daily events without significantly increasing the playtime overhead that was previously required, while also making it easier for players to spare tickets for holodeck hazards if they so desire. This does not get things 1-to-1 with how they were prior to 5.1 from a raw total potential Cant Be Coins per week, per month perspective, but it is significantly closer at a fraction of the time investment. I'm interested to know like how large the gap is right now. Like my solution definitely provides more coins, and we were still 1 million short, so assuming we are still 2 million short of the potential Cant Be Coins we could get per month or per week. Long term, we're going to look into providing content for players who are primarily gated by Cant Be Coins, so players can choose to invest the time, energy, resources in maximizing that resource if they so choose. This rationale is similar to our decision to update prize fights to include diamond keys and guaranteed milestone-based gold fighter rewards. Please rework Medici and show me your moves, prize fight. Please, please, please. If you can take anything out of the video I made previously, is to please increase the economy from those 2 prize fights or create a new content. I just want that. As noted in our roadmap, we will also continue to invest in refinements to our move system, including the ability for players to reroll or enhance certain substats as opposed to relying entirely on RNG. Yes, should be the #1 feature in the list now. So players are entirely reliant upon Cant Be Coins in order to build the perfect move loadout. In the entrance to it specifically, we are not planning on restoring old functionality and changing daily event tickets to only function as skip tickets. We know that limiting access to content that was previously freely available may rub some folks the wrong way in the interim, but as noted earlier, we are actively looking to discourage players from feeling compelled to play through unengaging content to get the resources they need. We are confident that the current approach will provide players with rapid, sustainable access to these resources, and any tuning or adjustments we make will be within the confines of this system. I agree with this. I think we should trust the developers. They have more experience, they know what's best for this game. I disagree with the idea on returning back to the previous system. I never mentioned this in the previous video, but I do like the direction they are going, and I think it is best for the game in the long term. So wrapping up, I know there are a slew of other questions and improvements that folks would like to see as it relates to daily events and or the economy as a whole. Just know that we are listening and always looking to make adjustments that are best for the moment-to-moment experience for every player and for the health of the game overall. Thanks once again for all your support. We look forward to your continued feedback as we refine the game further so it can continue to thrive for another 5 years. So that's one of the reasons why I really support this game, is because communication from the developers are very clear, and I love to read these kinds of posts as a response to our feedback, and it shows that they are listening to our comments and all that. So I did make a comment down here below if you want to read. It's just a little blurb of what I've been saying. But yeah, so this is the response from the developers. Personally, again, I'm not affected by this negatively. I have been loving the new system. I don't have to play dailies. I literally just skipped 2 buttons, sell some moves, and I got all the rewards I want. Does not change my play pattern, but I understand that some people are affected by this negatively, and I just want to say, I guess, be patient for new content coming out. I think that's one of the, not mistake per se, but slight oversight. Like, I love the fact that they focus on daily events, but perhaps it should have been supplemented with a new content to kind of replace that Cant Be Coin void, and then players wouldn't have been this upset. So those are just my thoughts on this response. For me, it's very positive, and I'm not saying this because I'm, making content for this game. I literally like the changes. I think I've mentioned this even in my previous video. I acknowledge that people are upset, but I actually really like the changes. So that's all for me. Thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.